this is the theme of our program, right? It's the basically the two questions: what makes us Americans, and what makes people from all over the world want to become U.S. citizens? Those are two powerful questions.
Keeping our republic is on the line, and it requires patriots with great passion, dedication, and eternal vigilance to preserve our freedoms. Jenny Beth Martin is the co-founder of Tea Party Patriots. She's an author, a filmmaker, and one of Time Magazine's most influential people in the world. But the title she is most proud of is mom to her boy-girl twins. She has been at the forefront, fighting to protect America's core principles for more than a decade. Welcome to the Jenny Beth Show.
Today, I'm joined by a very special guest and a friend who I've gotten to know pretty well over the last couple of years. Her name is Vanessa Faura. She is the Director of Programs and Engagement for the Foundation for the Restoration of America. And she's doing a really interesting training program around the country right now. And I'm looking forward to telling you about it because it is training people who are lawfully in our country as immigrants, and they are working to become citizens. So Vanessa, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Jenny Beth.
So you've got this new program that you've launched with the Foundation for Restoration of America. Tell everyone a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so it is a citizenship education program. It's called the Citizenship Masterclass. And what it does is that it prepares legal immigrants, Jenny Beth, pretty much future voters for their naturalization test. And what this program really does is equips these participants with an understanding of our nation's history, civics responsibilities, and most importantly, how conservative values shaped the United States into the world's beacon of hope. So it's beyond just testing preparation. These are lawful permanent residents, legal immigrants, a group or demographic that have gone unnoticed for decades by everyone in the country pretty much. So we're basically preparing them to be ready for their naturalization test. And what we're doing with this particular curriculum is that it's beyond just testing preparation. It's meant to instill in them a sense of belonging and pride, and inspiring these soon-to-be Americans to not just embrace and protect our freedoms, but contribute to the nation that they now call home.
Wow. So how is this different than just preparing for the citizenship test? And how is it similar to preparing for the citizenship test?
So we know now, and this is information from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, that one of the top two reasons for why legal permanent residents in the country on their way to naturalization do not get naturalized, do not take that step, is because they find the civics portion of the naturalization process very daunting. So we have prepared a curriculum to help them navigate that process so that they are comfortable and know what to expect when it comes to the civics and history questions by the time of their interview. But in addition to that, we talk about the Constitution. We talk about the principles and those values that made the United States of America the greatest nation on earth. We instill that sense of belonging, because it's very difficult when you migrate, leave everything behind, and you go through a very lengthy process like my family and I did to come to this nation looking for opportunities and prosperity. So once you get here, it's very, very difficult to understand those principles and values that we already are, that those values are already part of us. It's who we are in many ways, but no one ever tells us that. So having a sense of American history and what really made this nation the greatest on earth, it's very important, because what it does, it gives them not only a sense of identity, but it helps them in their process of assimilation and provides a sense of patriotism as well. And most importantly, belonging. Once they complete our program, they have this sense of belonging to America now that they're almost ready to become American citizens. And once that takes place, once that happens, they have also the motivation and empowerment to be more active and be pretty much active members in their communities. And with that, obviously, one of the main things they're ready to do is go out and vote.
That is really interesting. So, Vanessa, you are an immigrant, correct? And you are a citizen as well, right?
Correct.
So tell a little bit about how you came to America and your process to become a citizen.
Sure. So it was definitely a lengthy process. My family and I, my parents worked on getting our lawful residency into the United States, and it took about 7 years. So, and many, many visits to U.S. embassies in Peru, which is where I was born. And yeah, it was pretty lengthy. We went through a variety of different kinds of vettings, my parents especially. And we were able to get lawful permanent residency by the U.S. Embassy in Peru. And it was more than winning the lottery for us, something that my family had worked on for so long, finally achieving that, achieving that permit to be able to come into the U.S. legally. And we were granted legal residency, which meant that we could stay in America for as long as we wanted, live and stay here forever, right? And knowingly that after a certain certain amount of years and meeting some of the requirements, that we can eventually naturalize to become Americans. So we migrated to the U.S. My siblings, my parents, and myself. And then years later, we were able to petition for our citizenship, and we did. We were approved. We took the steps that we needed to take, and we became American citizens, which was I'd say one of the most important steps, in our lives.
How old were you when you became a citizen?
18.
Wow. And then you were able to go vote right away, right? Or fairly soon after that, because you're a citizen,
there's
you're
a funny
voting
story
age.
behind that. So I remember when I received a letter from the immigration services letting me know that I had an appointment to take the citizenship test and do the interview so that I can be approved for citizenship and be able to do the swearing in and all the, the great steps that come after that. So I got the appointment. I remember coming, jumping and happy and just so excited. And I came straight to my dad and I told my dad, I said, I got the appointment. I just have to get ready and study for the interview, the test. And I remember my dad clearly, he said, I will never forget. He said, yeah, that's great. And he hugged me. We hugged each other. I was almost like tearing up because it's like, finally, I'm going to become an American. This is going to be great. I was 18. I came into the country when I was 9 years old. So America for me was everything. My dad, I remember asking my dad, I said, I know that there's, I have to register to vote because when you naturalize, when you go through the interview, when you pass your test, you get the citizenship approved. Before you walk out of the building, Jenny Beth, you are asked to register to vote. And I knew that because of my dad telling us his experience, because he had already naturalized as an American citizen. And the one thing he did say was, make sure you register to vote. And I immediately asked him and I said, well, because I was already in high school. So I knew some of this stuff, not as much as I wish I did. But I asked him, I said, well, I know there's like 2 parties or 3 parties. And what should I pick? Do I pick Democrat or Republicans? And this is exactly how I pronounced it. And it was immediately then 2 seconds of silence, uncomfortable silence. And then he said, just register Democrat. And I said, why? and silence again for 3 seconds or 2 seconds. And he said, "Oh, we're Hispanics. We're Democrats." And of course, me being my mother's daughter, I didn't take that for an answer. And I immediately, the next day, I remember going to one of my teachers. I was a senior in high school. And I asked my teacher, and she said 2 things. The second thing she said changed everything, changed the trajectory of my life and my family's and friends and families, members from those friends. She said one thing. She said, "Honey, it's not," because I asked her, I said, can you tell me the difference between Republicans and Democrats? And the first thing she said was, "Honey, first of all, it's not Republicans, it's Republicans. And second of all, go look it up." And I did. So I remember going to the library and started digging, doing my research. I came across our founding fathers, some of their stories, and the story that, like we all know it, the world has ever known, the best story ever. And it's the story of America. And I still get goosebumps from just remembering that moment, because I just couldn't believe what I was reading. It was so interesting. It was so empowering, and it was very humbling, because I knew then that, oh my goodness, I'm going to become an American citizen. I'm going to be an American. And after going over the story of America and our founding fathers, and and learning about the Constitution and the power in it, and how it really how it really is the reason for why America is that beacon of hope for the rest of the world, just blew me away. I couldn't believe it. And that right there was a moment where I knew that I had to do something to make sure that the rest of the world, as I said it to myself, the rest of the world has to know this, because we don't. So that's how it all started. I immediately, I was even more willing and ready to take the naturalization test, and I passed it, and the rest of that, it's history.
That is amazing, Vanessa. And you went on, it really did change the trajectory of your life, right? I mean, you're doing this work now, educating people to take the test, to become citizens. You have voted, you've been active in campaigns. And last year during the Republican National Convention, you were one of the speakers, one of the nights, weren't you?
I was, yes. I had that privilege.
What an amazing privilege for you. Were you expecting to be asked to speak? And what did you talk about? And how did you feel about that? That had to be amazing for you and your family.
Yes, it was a very incredible moment that we would never forget. I remember receiving a phone call, and from the campaign, and they asked me a few questions and jumped on a couple of interviews after that, and talked about my story and the work that I've been doing for the past 12 years, 13 years in educating people across the country, and being so involved with issue-based education, and getting people involved, and it went on from there. And the next thing I know, I got another call, and that invited me to be one of the speakers at the RNC. And then from there, other people, that it was an entire team that supported me throughout the entire process, so that I can get my speech together and tell my story to the world.
That just is so amazing. And I was there and I saw you and I'm like, I know Vanessa. Yay. I was cheering very loud for you. So I was very excited for you that day, because it's you have an amazing story, and it's great that it was honored in such a lovely way. So going back to registering to vote, and one of the things that you were just saying is people go through the training and then they take the test and then they go and vote. And your dad leaves, and he is and he is asked to register to vote right away. And he's telling you, as soon as you become a citizen, register to vote. That really is one of the big privileges, right, of becoming a citizen. And it seems to me that if you went through all of that to be able to have that privilege, you would really cherish being able to vote as an American, maybe even differently than people who are born here.
Absolutely. This is why education and information, it's so vital in today's America, especially in today's America. We have over 13 million lawful permanent residents, Jenny Beth, in the country. And that number, it's only going to be increasing. And out of those over 13 million lawful permanent residents, these are legal immigrants in the country, law-abiding citizens like my family and I. And these folks are on their pathway to American citizenship. We have about 10 million right now, as we speak, qualified for naturalization. They qualify to become American citizens. All they have to do is apply and go through the process. Obviously, more vetting to be done because they've already been vetted, but they have to get vetted again, which is common sense, right? And totally understandable. They have to be law-abiding citizens, no issues with the law. And then they get qualified for naturalization, where they get notified that they have an appointment to go through the process. So it's very important, because if they don't have the education, the information, by the time they become naturalized American citizens and they register to vote, I can guarantee you, the grand majority does not know, they don't know which party to pick, and they're either confused, they don't have enough information. A lot of them end up, from from my experience talking to so many of these newly naturalized Americans, is that they just check the independent box because they don't know the difference. And we have people that have registered Democrats simply because they align that the name of the party with democracy. And it's sad, because these are not ignorant people. These are people that, mind you, they've gone through a very lengthy process in their native countries to be able to get approved to come into the U.S. because the U.S. government knows, and they've been able to prove, that these people are here to contribute to our country, not take away from it. This is why they get the admission to come into the country and live here forever and ever, right? So they're not just anyone that we don't know who they are. We know exactly who they are, where they come from, who their family is, what everything about their background. And most of these folks, if not all of them, are people that are educated, but they come into the country. No one ever tells them, talks to them about, the differences with the party platforms, those, very principles, those values that have made America the greatest in the world. So, and one of the things that I always begin, because I'm a certified instructor by USCIS, so I have the privilege to teach this course as well with the Foundation for the Restoration of America. And one of the things that I always tell the participants is that, look, we know the what and we know the how. We know what it is to come into the United States and lawfully, and we know how to become American citizens, but we never ask ourselves why. Why do we want to become an American citizen? And this is the theme of our program, right? It's the basically the two questions. What makes us Americans? And that is a question to you as well, Jenny Beth, and your audience listening right now. What makes us Americans? And what makes people from all over the world want to become U.S. citizens? Those are two powerful questions that we don't ask ourselves that. So we begin the class as part of the curriculum is we need to keep that in mind throughout every class. And education, information are key so that we can continue to restore our country.
That is really good. What kind of answers do you get when you ask people what makes makes us Americans, and why do they want to become an American?
Silence for the first 6 seconds. So I let them think. And some people say, well, that we appreciate opportunity. Others say our families, and other people say hard work. So all these already conservative aligned answers, right? And it's amazing because I pick those same answers and we start having discussions. And everything comes down to, at the end, on the what really makes us Americans and what makes people from all over the world want to become American citizens. It's because of our Constitution. That is one of the main, if not the strongest reason why we are all Americans. And we dive into the structure of government, and they get so touched when we teach the Constitution. That's one of the very first things we teach. And we talk about the structure of government and how powerful this four-page document is. And that has really shaped our nation. So we go through those discussions we've had during our first class. We just launched the program in North Carolina. Jenny Beth, we had people tearing up when we went over the Constitution and talked about, those powerful words that it has. And they were just amazed. And this is a conversation we also had. We were amazed about how the founding fathers in crafting this Constitution, they kept thinking, what were they thinking? Like, what went through their minds? How were they able to put this together in such a perfect way? And many people come to the conclusion that it was our creator. Our creator, was present right at that moment. Throughout this whole process. And that right there, it's the very foundation where we kick off and we start talking about the values that they bring with them to this great country. And then that's where I insert messaging where I talk about how those values are non-negotiable. This is why it's important to get involved, understand your local governments, your state government, your federal governments, because everything they do touches us directly. But the values is the very foundation we start with. And it's just amazing. It's very, very meaningful work for sure.
So you said that for a lot of people who are legal residents of the country, they don't wind up going ahead and taking the class or they don't go ahead and take the test to become citizens because the civics portion is so daunting for them. Are you able... Do you have a lot of people showing up at the classes? How long have you done this? What are the class sizes like right now versus in years past?
So when the Foundation for the Restoration of America launched the program in North Carolina, we were preparing for a solid group of 40 people because, as you can imagine, and the audience as well, it's not easy to target this specific demographic. These are lawful permanent residents in the country. They're buying their homes, they're starting families, they're building businesses, law-abiding citizens, but still you don't know who they are and what they look like, right? So we originally had a plan ready to have a class of 40 and then kind of take off from there. Well, within the second or third week, we had already 85 people registered to attend. Right now, we have a class of 200 people with 213 people that actually registered to attend the class just in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. So we are definitely expanding, but the launch in North Carolina is a testament to the need for this class, because when we promoted it, and, when we put the word out there, we worked closely with faith leaders, with churches and their leaders. We worked with small business owners, and we told them who we were, what the intentions were, and how we were going to be able to help this demographic that are just hungry for information and truth, right? So we were pleasantly surprised to see that we have a class and 200 people actually showed up. And so we had to move from having a regular room to an auditorium at a college campus. And they're just learning so much right now. And they're very, very, very grateful for their information that they would have never had learned had they not taken this register for this course.
That is amazing, Vanessa. And then you've done this before, right, with other groups. Did you have that kind of turnout before with 40 or 200 people?
Not before. Now, this is the first time I've seen a class this big. And yes, we've implemented the program with the RNC when I used to work for the RNC, and we had the Republican Civics Initiative while I was there, and it was great. We had a great response. I don't know if you remember this, but the RNC had about 35 different community centers across the country. I was doing strategic initiatives with the RNC during my time there, and one of the programs that I led was this citizenship program. So we've offered it to all 19 different states. And we had classes done in those community centers that we had in various communities, but never had we seen anything like this before. We had groups of 30, 25 people, maybe 35 max. But one of the key things here to take note of is that this program, basically what it does to it not only it's a great program for the folks that take it so that they're ready for naturalization, and the test not only becomes meaningful to them, but also natural, right? Because you have to understand the foundation and the history of America in order to be able to test well. So that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand, and they try to memorize questions and answers. And many of them already have a language barrier. So by the time they get to the interview, they're so nervous because they're trying to remember what they've memorized. Our groups with FFROA, what they know by the time they get to the interview processes, they know the story, they know history, the history of America. They know the very foundation that made this country great. So the interview and the questions become easier for them. So, but we've never seen something this big before.
That is amazing. And then do you focus on just the things they need to know to pass the test, or do you focus on things that might be like issues of the day for them to think about?
Yeah, so we do civics. We go through the civics questions. There's 100 that the Citizenship and Naturalization Services provide for the folks that are ready to naturalize, review before they get tested. So they give them 100 questions. And what these folks do is they study the questions, but we don't really tackle many of those questions. We do probably 20 of the most common ones that we know may get asked during their interview. So yeah, it's basically that, we go through that civics questions process and learning about the U.S. history, and then we also touch on issues happening. So that's when we insert a little bit of issue-based education. For instance, in North Carolina, we're going to be touching on in a couple of weeks the election integrity topic. It's a very interesting topic, especially because these lawful permanent residents that are already in the country possess so many picture IDs already that they just don't understand how this would even be an issue to require photo ID for people to be able to vote.
You are an immigrant who is now a citizen, and you're working with all of these people who are becoming citizens. Do you have an ID? Is it ridiculous for you to have this wide net cast that minorities cannot get an ID or show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote?
It's really, honestly, it's offensive, especially if you're talking about minority groups. Obviously, Hispanics, it's part of one of those minority groups, and it's pretty disrespectful to us. I've had this conversation during dinners, gatherings, with people that are from Latin America. My own family, my parents couldn't believe that this was even an issue. When in our native countries, we are obligated to vote. Like, it's mandatory in many of Latin American countries, probably most of them, if not all of them. And not only that, regardless of your economic status, there's a lot of poverty in Latin American countries. We have families living in dirt floors. And even these people understand the importance of a photo ID because they have to have it in order to vote. And again, voting is mandatory. So when we come into the United States as lawful permanent residents, we go through an entire process of vetting and identification. We have to provide all kinds of different IDs. In addition to that, we have a passport, right, from our native countries. We get a green card, which attests to the fact that we are lawful permanent residents in the United States, which has our picture on it, our passport, and then other kinds of forms of IDs. But the passport and the green card are federal ID documents, right? They're valid anywhere we go in the United States. So once we become American citizens, in addition to that, we get a certification with our picture on it saying that we are now American citizens, which has the same value in America as our birth certificates do in our native country. So we have a birth certificate from our native country. We have a naturalization certificate with our information and our picture on it from USCIS. Here, we get an American passport. We have a driver's license. So we have more IDs, picture IDs, than the American people that were born and raised here. So it's pretty ironic that they would even say requiring photo ID is discriminatory against Hispanics when it's not. It's really not. It's a joke. So those are the topics that we touch. And I wish I can put this out there, how their reaction, because they just don't understand it.
Well, it's issues that maybe they've only heard just a little bit, maybe a blip on TV or on the radio or on a podcast. But, like most normal Americans and people who are trying to aspire to be Americans, they are living their lives and working hard to provide for their families. And sometimes they just don't have time to go into all the issues to even figure out which side of the issue they stand on because they haven't thought about one side or the other or both sides at all.
Right. So it's just, it's pretty frustrating, to be honest. I mean, even when that is the case, seeing a group of people, attesting to something that we know it's not true, it's heartbreaking, and not being able to defend it. Because of what you just said, right? We're so busy, we're not really paying attention, but everything goes back to the very the information about making sure that we're getting educated and that we're getting the information, because many of us, like my family, we don't know that we don't know. And we're so busy. I remember my parents always being so busy with work, and I'm the youngest of 7. And all my siblings came to the United States legally. And my parents were so busy. My mom was so busy making sure that we were all good, that we were taken care of, that we were well fed, even though she worked 2 jobs, my dad as well. So it was pretty busy. I mean, they didn't have much time to find out what was going on out there. But again, this is why this program matters, and it's so important, because we not only prepare these folks for the civics portion of the test, we really dive into the importance of staying engaged, being engaged, making sure that you're voting, and that not only that you're just voting, but you're voting your values.
Right. That's so very, very important. Vanessa, you're doing this in North Carolina. Are you guys going to expand it beyond North Carolina? And also, if people are interested in learning more about this program or what the Foundation for Restoration of America is doing, where can they go for more information?
Sure. They can go to our website. It's the ffroa.com. And there's a tab in there that says citizenship. They can click on it. Or if they wish to send an email directly to the team, they can email citizenship@ffroa.com, and we'll provide information, whatever they're looking for.
And then, are you going to be doing it outside of North Carolina, or more states or locations on the horizon?
Yes. So we've already we just recently completed this past Saturday a online citizenship program with a group of folks in Utah, Salt Lake City, and they completed the program on Saturday, and it was great because we decided to meet in person, and we did a celebratory meeting with that particular group. We had one of the daughters of one of the lawful permanent residents there who sang the national anthem with so much passion and power and love, looking and cherishing our flag. It was just, I get goosebumps again. But I'm sure you'll find it somewhere on social media pretty soon on our FFROA social media. It'll be out there at some point, but it was just amazing. So online, we've already started a group to do the online course. And yes, we are going to be in other states. Right now, we are in North Carolina, and potentially next, we're going to be in Georgia.
Very good. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me today, and thanks for all the work that you are doing to help ensure that these new citizens of our country understand the Constitution better and truly do have a deep attachment to America.
Thank you for having me, Jenny Beth.
The Jenny Beth Show is hosted by Jenny Beth Martin, produced by Kevin Mooneyhan, and directed by Luke Livingston. The Jenny Beth Show is a production of Tea Party Patriots Action. For more information, visit teapartypatriots.org. If you like this episode, let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment or a 5-star review. And if you want to be the first to know every time we drop a new episode, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for whichever platform you're listening on. If you do these simple things, it will help the podcast grow, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.